the way, all the Joe Rogan dick riders of the world all go back to one man who has irreversibly ruined comedy, Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, for sure. That's the biggest red flag. When motherfuckers are like, oh, Andrew Dice Clay, like, that's the great, that's the GOAT. It's like, nah, dude. Like, no. That is the most NPC version of comedy. It's the most coworker bit you can ever arrive at. This is from Mike Maxwell. Joe Rogan appears unwilling to part with his distorted characterization of the parties. Let's see what Joe Rogan's attitude is on the parties. Let's take a look. He's gonna say something brilliant, I suspect. Okay.
We're in this complete shifting of the polls where the Republicans now are in favor of free speech. The Republicans want to end the war.
Doing genocide in Gaza, unlimited genocide in Gaza, just like the Democrats did as well, but certainly not in favor of ending that war, okay? Free speech, literally speak out against Israel and see how much free speech you have, Joe. Who is in charge, Joe? Marco Rubio was blackbagging people for the crime of writing mean things about the state of Israel.
They want to stop contributing to foreign countries. They want comedy to be comedy.
Yeah, except for Israel. Again, $17 quintillion to Israel every quarter.
Again, they don't want restrictions on people's behavior.
With comedy, they want comedy to be comedy. Okay, dude. What the f does that even mean? That's such a stupid... Oh, God, I hate that. They want comedy to be comedy. Comedy is legal again. Oh.
Thinking.
Yeah, legalize comedy.
And the Democrats have developed this sort of like cult-like idea of what everyone should accept and what's normal and what's not normal and what needs to be elevated in our population and what needs to be ignored. And it's just like, God damn, you're ruining it for everybody that thinks in a left way. Like anybody who's...
Dog, I don't know why you think you're thinking in a left way when you say objectively untrue things. This is why people say you're right-wing, Joe, because you are literally coping and also caping for the right, okay? That's what you're doing.
Reasonable, like a reasonable left-thinking person, which is most artists, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
And then you get to this point where you're like, no, I can't go along with you on all these things.
Yeah.
You guys you're just a bunch of assholes who are using these subjects as a way where you can behave incredibly shitty, incredibly uncharitable, like vicious, mean, ostracizing people from society. I don't want any part of you. I don't want any part of the way you guys think and behave. And you to pretend that you're doing it for good, you're gluing yourself to the wall for climate change. The f you are. Yeah. You're just a nut. You're just a crazy, entitled nut, and you're up society. Yeah. This is
Dude, this stuff is so dumb. People do that because the institutions are not actually going about the democratic wishes of broader society, okay? That's what you do when you have no other option to get your voice across, to get your positions across, to be heard, okay? And we know the counterexample to this when the COVID lockdowns were happening, okay? We know that was seen as a left-right dynamic, and Republicans lost their fucking minds. They took guns to the Capitol buildings all around. Look at January 6th. That's what happens when Republicans don't get what they want, okay? The idea that like, oh man, liberal protesters, leftist protesters are so dumb and stupid. That's why we have to burn it all to the ground with this rapist, monstrous administration that's literally molesting the money, molesting the Constitution, molesting everything is good, actually, because they've legalized comedy. The f do you want people to do, man? We know what happens when the right doesn't get its wishes across, okay? We know. We've seen it happen. We've seen it unfold. I'd rather have the right do like kooky, weird things like what the leftists and liberals are doing than whatever the f they've done in the past. But the only reason why you notice that as an aberration is because there is no world where the left gets anything out of the institutions. So they just do this kind of disruptive shit. That's it. Listen, if I can't get my chuckles out of my giggle box, I will raise hell. No, that's the other part of this that sucks. Joe Rogan and this kind of attitude has ruined comedy. The idea that like it's only funny if some libs are owned, or it's only funny if I can say slurs. It's only funny if I just like constantly chirp endlessly about like 1% of the population, trans people, or whatever the like. How is that funny, man? They're not laughing. The liberals are not laughing at my jokes, which is why I voted for Trump. Okay. Put the comedy in the bag. Try to find something funny. Try to find something humorous, you know? Reactionary attitudes, reactionary sentiment, and reactionary attitudes can be funny if you're looking at it from the outside. We do it all the time. We laugh at hogs with regular frequency. They are hilarious. Trump has the capacity to be hilarious. He is funny all the time, unintentionally. Okay? But if you yourself are right-wing, it ruins your capacity to craft good jokes. Yeah, Marc Maron has been going crazy on this issue.
But the thing with
he went on Bad Friends, actually, and I think and you know, I'm an old what the buddy, what the ear, okay? I was an OG Marc Maron fan because I've been an OG podcast consumer for years and years. I haven't really followed what Marc Maron's been up to as of late, but he went on Bad Friends and he just dropped a bunch of I guess truth bombs, even though he is like very, you know, in the most Marc Maron way possible, which is like, you know, whiny and anyway, let's just see.
Joe, the thing with Joe,
Yeah.
is I don't know that we have a lot to talk about because of my, you know, my idea of what he's done to comedy.
Sure.
And I don't think it's great. I think that it's tribalized, and
I will say there is a trend shift that I've noticed on TikTok because even Joe Orbiters keep constantly talking about how shitty Austin is, even though there's a comedy scene there. Okay? This move to Texas was presented as like this new vision. It was going to be another cultural capital of America. Okay? And ironically, Austin did have that capacity, but it was ruined by dumb right-wingers that came from California and elsewhere that turned Austin into a right-wing shithole. They f***ed it up. If you've ever met someone who is, you know, born and raised in Austin, Texas, you know what like the OG people from Austin, Texas are like. They're like woke Wilder, okay? He is a great representation of someone who was born and raised in Texas, okay? Woke as a f***er. But now you look at Austin and it's ass. Why is it ass? Because every goddamn loser from California that wanted to wear like snakeskin boots and wear a big belt buckle and a cowboy hat and talk about yee comedy is actually going to be saved, legalized comedy, that love Elon Musk, moved to Austin, Texas, and they f***ed it up. They ruined it. And on top of their on top of leaving Austin in this ruins, they also are now leaving Austin, Texas, because they're like, oh, this sucks. this sucks. So now they're leaving Austin in droves. What happened? Californians are really the Israelis of America? True. Yeah, look at Peach. Look at Woke Wilder. Those are the real Texan right there. There are plenty of people like that in Texas, okay? Plenty of people like that in Texas. It's just Texas has become such an annoying place. It's become like more like Florida, basically, where everybody goes there like it's a promised land for being anti-woke and quote-unquote based. And that's the problem. When you do that, you ruin the culture. You ruin what it could have been, okay? And then you don't like what you turned Texas into, and then you you don't like what you've turned Austin into, because Texas broadly is like that, okay? And then you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. There's like nothing here. It's all the worst. It's all the worst aspects of conservative slop that I'm experiencing everywhere. So there's no like real culture remaining in this city. So I'm just gonna leave, and that's what's happening. They're all leaving now.
think that, you know, he's created a sort of army of people that think they know comedy, but they only know a specific thing, and what they think is good is not necessarily good. It may be what they're like.
So it seems that Marc Maron has reignited his decades-long beef with Joe Rogan and his group of comedic assassins, as he just called them out on 2 separate podcasts in the span of a week. And Marc Maron's not just going after these guys because he doesn't like them. As he puts it, he has reasonable criticism for them.
It's reasonable criticism.
Reasonable criticism.
Yeah.
Like in his most recent special, Panicked, Mark actually spends a good portion of time calling out the anti-woke comedy scene that Rogan's...
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he bouldered Theo Von, but I would love to hear a conversation between him and Theo Von on Israel. I think Mark is too much of a lib to recognize that like Theo Von actually agrees with Marc Maron on Israel, and I think they could have a very productive and very good conversation. I was a big fan of Marc Maron at one point. Is this guy good? I used to be a huge fan of Marc Maron, and I still like Marc Maron. But he's not for everybody. I will say that. He is the classic old liberal. How else do I explain it? He's the mealy-mouthed, annoying liberal. But he's right. He's just like, sometimes he's a little annoying about it, if that makes sense. A real old school liberal, as in he is progressive.
Forged in Austin, criticizing them for normalizing slurs, punching down at marginalized groups.
Like Bill Maher? No, fuck no. No. He's bizarro Bill Maher. They exhibit similar tendencies, but his politics are far better than, like, in the reversal of Bill Maher. Marc Maron's the type of dude who says the same shit that I say, where he's like, why the fuck do you care about trans people this much? Like, you're being a loser. Like, one of the things he actually literally said in the Bad Friends podcast that I really enjoyed was when he was like, okay, you did it. You did it. Trans people are terrified of getting health care. Like, you did it. When is it going to end? When are you going to stop? That's what he said.
To me immediately, he's like, I am so sorry.
Wait, Marc Maron found out that Stav and Nick made fun of him?
I talk shit about you. He's like, I'm just doing a podcast. I never thought you'd see it.
It's like, people just yammering. Yeah. And like, I've had, what was I just going to tell you? Shit. Because I had Stavros on not too long ago, and and I didn't realize that him and his partner had been talking shit about me for years.
Bro, what are you saying? Marc Maron's infinitely better than Bill Maher? Yeah. No, I know. I just said that. Why are you repeating that?
Oh, for real?
What's the other guy's name?
Nick?
Yeah. I don't know that guy.
Nick Mullins.
I don't know any of these people.
But Nick Mullins he's first of all, he's hysterical.
No, I know he's funny.
Yeah, him and Stavi together when they did the Come Town, that was one of the funniest.
Yeah, but apparently they've been taking shots at me for a long time, and and Stavros was great. I like the guy, and we had a nice conversation. And somebody's like, they've been talking. I'm like, I don't give a
dude.
Like, what am I going to do? Some guy texted me. Someone texted me like, some guy's doing a joke you did. Like some comic in Chicago, young guy, is doing basically the same joke setup that I did on my 1995 HBO special. And it was public, like, that's Maron's joke or whatever. So I DM'd the guy. I'm like, we good? And he's like, yeah, man, I took it down. And I never saw your special. I swear to God. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Relax. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can deal with whatever you want to deal with, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So we got what the with Marc Maron. Is he still doing that?
Yeah.
God, I feel bad for him now,
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. I had no idea.
If this lasts as long as that, I'll kill myself. I promise.
Look at Adam with the tefillin in the background. Bro, dude, oh my God. When the world needed them the most, they vanished, bro. I swear to God. I mean, I guess they didn't really vanish, but like every new podcast is trying to do this. They're trying to do this, but because they have no capacity to understand what made this work, they literally just take the worst aspects of what this was and just slam that on over and over again. You know what I mean? It's really interesting to think about, like the 2016 era the 2016 era, like Cumtown Chapo, like doing away with the aesthetics of leftist progressivism while still maintaining the Yard, dude, come on. I mean, no disrespect. I love the Yard boys, but that's crazy. that's insane to compare. Literally half of this chat is still stuck in that phase, brother. It's not even necessarily a phase, dude. It just doesn't matter. The point is the optics and the aesthetics are inconsequential. But unfortunately, for a lot of liberals, it's all that matters. It's the only thing that matters. You know what I mean? The ideology or the background or what these guys actually believe in and what they defend, what they talk about in terms of like their political worldview is unfortunately inconsequential for a lot of people, and they can't get past the optics of it all. And I see this. I mean, I see this even in my own experience. I don't do the shit that Cumtown did, certainly, but it doesn't matter. Like this presentation is too broy for some people, so they just like immediately write it off. They don't even like want to entertain it. They don't even want to see what this is all about. They just go, "Oh, that guy's a bro. He's probably like hyper misogynistic and blah blah blah. He's probably transphobic. All this shit." And that's the problem. For a lot of people, they just don't. For a lot of people, they can't move past the optics. They just hyper focus on that, because for liberals, it's like the beginning and the end of all politics is what your presentation looks like. Okay?
And overall platforming dangerous ideas.
Pterodactyl arms? You supposed to put that nigga on the grill. He ain't even supposed to live.
And if you haven't seen it already.
By the way, ironically, a lot of the new meta, a lot of the new like crop of comedians do actually, like I said, try to do the Cumtown thing, but without the actual without the actual background, without the actual political acumen, or even investment in like trying to identify who to make fun of or how to make fun of them, that it just only turns into low-hanging fruit. Even the shit that they got like what's his face? Shane. Oh my God. Why is my brain? I'm farting. My brain is farting. I'm having a brain fart. Shane Gillis. Thank you. Shane Gillis. I can't believe I forgot his name for a second. Like, remember when Shane Gillis was canceled by SNL? He was canceled because they clapped him on the basis of like all of his worst attempts at trying to do Nick Mullen style comedy. Okay. And he had way funnier bits than that. Like, he had actually funny moments, like a lot of them. And that's precisely the reason why he just like went back to the drawing board, and he has rebuilt his brand, and now he's doing SNL all the goddamn time, right? He has his own projects and things like that. And it was because he found his own voice through this process that made him funny. And is the reason why he's a funny comedian. I know a lot of people in this community especially don't like him, okay? Because many of you guys don't understand that, like, when someone is trying to find humor and trying to make people laugh, they're gonna say things that are not funny at all. And if you say something, because no one has the capacity to be 100% all the time. We are allowed to not like comedians? No, for sure. I don't really give a shit, ultimately. I'm doing meta-analysis on comedy in general, specifically because we're talking about Marc Maron right now and the Rogansphere right now. And I'm explaining to you that there are comedians who are actually funny, who have the capacity to be funny, who find their own voices, and comedians who just basically look at trends and follow the notes of Joe Rogan, for example, and try to craft their material off of like low-hanging fruit. And in that process, because the only way to do comedy is literally by failing, there's going to be a lot of failures. And in this current meta, when you are saying something, especially if you're trying to touch a culturally sensitive subject matter and you end up failing, people just look at you and go, "Oh, dude, you are just a grossly racist piece of shit. You're a monstrous piece of shit." Because if you're uninitiated with the process of how to craft a joke, and on top of that, your first interaction with a human being is like them flopping spectacularly on an issue that makes him look like a monster, then yeah, of course you're gonna be like, this guy sucks.
I highly recommend you go watch that entire special. But to give you an idea of what he talks about in that special, here's him poking fun at the idea of Theo Von having Adolf Hitler on his podcast, and what exactly that would sound like.
I think if Hitler were alive today, he'd probably appear on Theo Von's podcast. And Theo would be like, see, y'all did a lot of meth, right? I mean, all the Nazis were all f***ed up on meth, right, Hitler? That shit'll make you crazy, dog. I did some meth once. I was up for 3 days, and then I ate a live bird. No shit, Hitler, a live bird, bro. Hey, Hitler, you probably didn't even hate the Jews. That was just the meth making you crazy, dog.
So now he's on a podcast press tour for that new special, and he's...
For the record, that's a good bit, and I hope people don't think that he's doing that. I hope people don't think that Mark is doing that because he thinks like, Theo Von is anti-Semitic because of his position on Israel or whatever. Because if you know Marc Maron's position on Israel, he's been there for a very long time. He's been a anti-Israel guy for a very long time. I hope people know that, okay? He's not doing that because of Israel. He's doing that because of Theo Von's Donald Trump. His Donald Trump podcast, like humanizing Donald Trump. Okay? Understand that. He's Sam Cedars, dude. Yeah. No, I like Mark. He's unk.
Sent shots left and right at the entire Rogansphere. Like in this recent...
Where had he said he's anti-Israel? Marc Maron? Marc Maron has talked extensively on the issue of Israel. It's actually really interesting because a lot of people don't realize. They know... Like, many people know Seth Rogen is anti-Israel, but they don't know where that information comes from. That's from what the Marc Maron's podcast. Is Marc Maron and Seth Rogen talking about Israel and how weird it is and how up Israel is. That's where that audio comes from. Marc Maron's been on that Israel shit for a long time. Yeah, see? Look.
Probably here.
Marc Maron with guest Seth Rogen. I was fed a bunch of lies about Israel. Yeah, Marc Maron is... A lot of people point to Joe Rogan as like the OG comedy podcaster, but many people don't realize that Marc Maron is the OG comedy podcaster. What the was the Joe Rogan experience before the Joe Rogan experience? Pick one, Marc Maron or Burr. Oh, no, I love Bill Burr more than I love Marc Maron, for sure. Or Tom Green. Fair. This is not Tom Green erasure. No, you're right. That's deep lore. You're right about that. I was just exhibiting my bias. But like, I will say that like the impact that like Marc Maron was the guy. He was one of the pioneers of like being a comedian who just does like a one person podcast.
In Bad Friends episode, he goes at Rogan in a pretty hilarious and major way, roasting him for leading an army of enlightened meatheads, and predicting that they'll run out of material pretty quickly, since the majority of jokes that they tell are pretty surface-level jabs at marginalized groups that they've completely beaten into the ground. Like
that's by the way, an evisceration because it's 100% the truth. Like that's he just clocked them 100p. That is, I don't know even what else to say. It's just like you're punching down. When do you stop? That's basically what he said on the pod, and it's correct. It's like you've just run out. You've run out. You've exhausted it. You've exhausted the.
If you know anything about this Rogan era of comedy, you'd know that they do this quite frequently. Like to this day, they're probably still making COVID-19 jokes. And Marc Maron considers this shtick to be hack.
But yeah, me and who else?
Rogan.
Okay.
Who's that?
Joe
Rogan.
Joseph
Rogan?
Yeah, he's out of Texas.
Oh, Texas. Got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Got it.
Yeah.
You love Austin, don't you?
He's running half the planet out of Texas.
Yeah.
He's got a tight hold on the enlightened meatheads.
Dude, Maron's disdain.
It's not disdain. It's reasonable criticism.
Reasonable criticism.
Yeah.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess it would have been at the store. I never talked to him in Austin. I don't go into the club. I don't really think I'm on his radar. So
something tells me you are.
Oh yeah,
yeah, something.
Yeah, something tells me you are.
I don't. It's weird that you get lumped into a certain thing, and maybe it's my assumption that his army of
Kill Tony in this day and age is absolute dog shit comedy. I mean, Kill Tony, I'll say this much. Kill Tony is a brilliant medium ruined by the guy it's named after. Okay? Because the idea of getting new comics to literally test out 3 to 5 minute, or 1 to 3 minute bits, I don't know how long it is now, in front of comedy greats is an incredible idea. It is a brilliant idea. Okay? The problem is it's steered by one of the worst comedians of this generation. So for that reason, it's always like fantastic. I used to listen to Kill Tony all the time. I used to listen to Kill Tony, and I would just every time I listened to Kill Tony, I was like, I just wish this wasn't led by Brian Redband and Tony Hinchcliffe. Okay? Like, I don't know if you've ever had a situation like that where you're like, why am I listening to this? This sucks because the hosts are so bad. The guests are good, okay? And the concept is great, but god damn is the execution so ass because it's directionally led by the worst people. That's why I stopped watching it, because I could not deal with like how creepy and shitty it got at moments where I was just like, ugh. Joe Rogan orbiters have been a stain on comedy, and it's like a thing that you have to do. You have to go on Joe Rogan if you want to reach the largest audience possible, and I totally understand that. And a lot of people go on Joe Rogan and then take it one step further because it's like the only thing that they can rely on in terms of like maintaining a career. But I think it's just, it is destroyed. It has destroyed modern comedy. It's so bad.
Healthy fellas.
Is that their title? Army of Healthy Fellas is so good.
You just got to, got to stay in, keep the machine.
The machine's got to be good.
Yeah.
That's a shot at Bert. Go ahead.
What do you think the Austin shelf life is going to be?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think that it's so effectively tribalized at this point. It really comes down to material. I mean, at what point, it's like whatever they represented in terms of policy. And it's not a stretch. It's like they won. Trans people are frightened. They have no ability to get health care anymore. And they're afraid of being alive and have no freedom left. So that's done. When do you stop with the jokes?
When do you stop with the jokes?
And like immigrants. Okay, well, they're being ripped away from their homes. And they're all terrified. And okay, so that's done. When do you stop with the jokes?
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to pick on the vulnerable and the marginalized, but I mean, they're down.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
they're down.
Why do you got to keep hitting them unless you're a hack? Now, there's a question.
Wow.
Yeah. Nailed it. That's it. Nailed it. In the simplest terms, none of the comedy greats that people actually look back at positively have ever spent a good deal of time punching down. They always punch up. In the simplest terms, like, comedy can be something as stupid as like a fart joke, or it can be something as interesting as unwinding the structural inequities that we all exist under in a humorous way. I also do love, Santino is one of the unspoken greats of modern comedy. No, I think he's hilarious.
Mark, wow.
He comes in swinging.
Yeah.
Another issue that Mark has with Joe Rogan was one that Mark's had a problem with since the early 90s, which is that comedy is supposed to be for the quote-unquote sensitive weirdos, not necessarily for the high school locker room bullies that Joe Rogan's ushered in. And even though I don't fully agree with this stance, since to me, if you're funny, you're funny, it is a stance that I've seen other comics take, like when Tim Dillon was calling out Brendan Schaub right after he released his insult of a comedy special, Gringo Poppy.
when I watch Brendan do that, it's like I go, here's a big tough guy who I should just see in a Ferrari, and he should be able to rip people's faces off with his catcher mid hands. And I see him running around the stage going, oh! I go, you're gay now.
By the way, all the Joe Rogan dick riders of the world all go back to one man who has irreversibly ruined comedy, Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, for sure. That's the biggest red flag. When they're like, oh, Andrew Dice Clay, like, that's the great, that's the GOAT. It's like, nah, dude, you are like, no. That's for the, that is the most NPC version of comedy. It's the most coworker bit you can ever arrive at. Dane Cook, Andrew Dice Clay. Nah, f that. They're not even in the same conversation. They're nowhere near in the same conversation as like a Richard Pryor or a Bill Hicks or a George Carlin, obviously. And even Dane Cook didn't do the punching down bit, for the record. Just make no mistake. It's just like hacky stuff, but like he didn't also punch down. There's like hacks that don't make bullying random people their only bit. You know, the shock. And then there are actually funny comedians who have mastered the art of shock humor as well. I would go so far as to say that even Daniel Tosh, maybe not for everybody, had a much better grip on this. Or what's the other one that also was shitting on? Anthony Jeselnik has a much better grip on like doing shock humor than a guy who's just like going up on stage and being like, trans people are weird, right? Gross. It's a man wearing a dress. Ha ha ha. You should, as a comedian, I think, and I'm not a comedian, I'm just a fan of comedy. The one thing I always have said is, if you're looking for this instead of ha 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 this, you've lost the plot. Okay? The moment that you're like looking for cheap applause breaks from the worst people on the planet is the moment where you've already lost the plot. You've lost it.
Become gay.
Why
are you gay?
He was a knight. He was a knight. He was a knight.
He's a knight.
And now he's a jester.
Now he's gay.
He's a gay jester.
He's a gay man. He's a fully gay man. When you watch his special, he's like, woo!
So Mark's main issue with this is that the weirdo alt comics have sort of been pushed to the side in recent times. And when Mark brings this point up to Bobby Lee, he actually gets him to join in on trashing Austin comics, which was just great to see.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and the bigger problem about what you're saying, I think we all still do exist, but the nature of the comedy business is fragmented and some of it's tribalized. But there used to be a lot more weirdos around who were kind of exciting and interesting and took it a different place. I would argue with just talky talk comedy, there's not that many people bringing it to a different place, dude.
Right. Well, there is some good ones that, like, I think that kid Casey Rocket's really entertaining and fun and different and unique. I think they're there, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is there's so much sludge. There's so much shit. There's way more noise than we've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
So it's hard to appreciate or even care because all that's really being shown is kind of the constant, like, give it to him, give it to him, give it to him, give it to him. So I get it.
I'm tired of the attitude.
I thought you were going to say violence in this country.
No. I'm tired. They come up back to L.A. One guy, I want to name his name, and go, oh, you seem like you're thriving. And he goes, I'm killing it.
Killing it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The guys talking about the comedians of comedy, guys like David Cross, Mr. Show with Bob and David, were all mostly anti-Israel. Yeah. All the good comics are. I don't know a single, I can't point to a single good comedian, like a GOAT comedian, that is like unconditionally pro-Israel. Because it's just like, it's very obviously an inequality. And if you're a good comedian, you see that kind of stuff and you make humor out of that. Someone said Sarah Silverman. Yeah, my point. Exactly. Yeah, Seinfeld. Amy Schumer. Yeah, forgetting Michael Rappaport, are we?
And I'm like, whoa, dude. You moved out because you couldn't survive here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different...
It's an animal.
It's an animal.
Well, I think the weirdos you're referring to, by the way, were birthed, and I defend this to blue in the face were birthed at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And I think I always push, I was like, people don't know that about the store. They think they hear this like corporate bro. And that happens internally in LA a lot too, where they're like, the store is a, whatever, sellout factory of bro comics. Because I
Not
think,
anymore.
No, but there was a wash of it that came through. And I think.
Yeah, Joe, they moved to Austin.
But
And real quick here, just based on the voice inflection that Bobby was doing there, I'm almost certain that he was talking about Tony Hinchcliffe. I mean, it's 100% something Tony would say, too.
Oh, you seem like you're thriving. He goes, I'm killing it.
So yeah, just an all-around hilarious episode of Bad Friends that I highly suggest you go watch the entire episode of. One thing that this podcast was missing, though, was the larger, more political reason.
It's not even on some political shit, man. It's not even on some political shit. There's a guy who is also close to the Trump admin, Shane Gillis, who is a million times funnier than Tony Hinchcliffe. So before people immediately go, oh, you just don't like Tony because he's like pro-Trump or whatever. No. Okay? Absolutely not. He is a blight. A lot of these guys that are in the Joe Rogan orbit that have just like kept a career by being close to Joe Rogan, and even Joe Rogan himself, unironically, are just a stain on comedy. The glaze on Shane is wild. It's not. I don't think Gillis is a Republican. He's kind of woke, low-key. No, I know. I'm just saying he's close to Donald Trump, though. Someone said, why don't you like Nanette? I know. Oh, my God. That was one of my boldest moments when I was shitting on Nanette at the peak of woke in, like, the first Trump administration, being like, this is not funny at all. What the f***? It's literally anti-comedy. It's a TED Talk. You guys like to cancel people too much? What? You know what's really funny about that, by the way? People say that all the time. Let me explain something to you. There's a bald sex pest out there who is actively talking about how his dad is going to rape my dad, that has been demanding I get deplatformed. Not once have I ever said he should be deplatformed for saying that. There's another bald monster that lives with cockroaches and constantly calls me a terrorist, actively demanding I get not only deplatformed, but arrested, okay? Not once have I turned around and been like, this guy should be canceled. This guy should be deplatformed. I'm not the one doing it, okay? It's the right that does it all the time. What happened? I thought these guys wanted, free speech. It turns out everybody wants free speech until it's the type of speech you don't like.
That Marc Maron called out right-wing podcasters in his special for. But luckily for us, he actually explained it in detail in the Vulture podcast he did nearly 10 days ago, calling out Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe by name, which even if you don't agree with anything Maron says, you have to respect the fact that he calls them out by name here, as most comics are too afraid to seriously go after Joe Rogan in this sort of fashion. But anyways, in this podcast, Marc Maron explains that he's going after these guys because they essentially sided with Trump solely because he was more pro-speech than the other option. But now that he's in office and has acted on these policies, it's almost as if they're acting shocked that he's doing anything like that. I mean, just the other day, Andrew Schultz posted this screenshot to his story reacting to the Trump administration not mandating IVF care. I mean, this sort of thing is happening every day in the Roganverse at this point, and Mark touches on that in this Vulture podcast.
And, Rogan and Hinchcliffe and, just a lot of these people just locked into this.
He's a zinner too. My God.
Anti-woke thing. But now,
oh my God, I just realized. I think the first time I actually encountered nicotine gum was Marc Maron. Oh my God. I think he literally influenced me to quit smoking with nicotine gum. It's just like coming back to me right now. Something that I've done for many others now, Marc Maron has done for me. Full circle.
The government, which is for all practical, good intents and purposes, is an authoritarian government, and we have a fairly dominant fascistic culture. Yeah. So they're using the same language, which is anti-woke, to dismantle all progressive institutions. And, whether you like it or not, or whether that's not what you signed up for, you know, you tied yourself to that horse, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's not even a matter of unforgivable. It just is what it is. So you can backpedal all you want, but this is the reality, is that, you know, democracy was squashed because of, you know, the policy now of using anti-woke to dismantle the liberal democratic state is something you didn't shut up about.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the same thing. Well, I just wanted to say the art. Yeah, so that's who I'm talking about. And look, you know, I think a lot of them were just like wanted to land on the side where they could earn a living. You know, it's challenging.
For years, Joe Rogan has acted like the small guy that the media likes to pile on top of, as if he was the victim, just because he wasn't allowed to make jokes about marginalized groups. But now that they've sort of won that small victory with Trump, they can't play the victim.
Yeah. And it's not even a small victory. It's just like, it's such a stupid victory to win. Oh, we can say the R word now, dude. It's like, you could always say it, dumbass. Like, what do you mean? You could always say it. You just couldn't say it in a place of business, okay? That's it. And also, if you say it, there are probably going to be, well, not the R word, but, you know, other slurs. If you say it in public, people are going to get mad at you. So it's not necessarily about, like, why can't I say it? When these guys are complaining, they're complaining about the repercussions, the backlash that they receive. They actually mean, why can't I say it? And then people actually react positively to it. And you just can't change collective attitudes like that. Okay? That's the issue here. It's not whether you can say it or not. It's that when you say it, people still react negatively to it. That's it.
Card anymore. Also, in this next clip, Mark plainly states again that whenever a Rogan guy makes a joke punching down at trans or gay people or anything of that nature, that it's simply just hack, and it's only offensive because of how unfunny it is.
And in that thing, it's at a point now where it's like you don't have the victim position anymore. You have the dominant position. So why keep kicking? Because it's hackneyed. That, you know, you walk through a comedy club, or you go to some in certain cities where it's like there's a prerequisite to do a trans joke. There's a prerequisite to do an R-word joke. There's a prerequisite to push the edge in a very non-risky way.
Yeah. To not push a boundary, but act like you are.
Yeah, and act like, you know, your voice is
yeah, bro, they're slinging all that shit from the top rope at this point. What do you mean? You're not counterculture, man. You're not counterculture. You never were. That's not counterculture. That's what's so annoying about this shit. It's just hack material. And you're just mad that your hack material doesn't have broad appeal, and you're just coping, which is, again, anti-comedy. When you make a joke and people don't laugh, you're not supposed to go, well, they're wrong for not laughing. You're supposed to go, oh, I f***ed up. Let me fix this. Let me make this thing that didn't land funny. But these guys are so babied. They're so annoying. We're like, this is the principle of making comedy. This is the one thing. There's no other way to do this. Okay? There is no other way to do this. You have to go out in front of a crowd and you have to test out your material. And if people don't laugh, you have to go back to the drawing board and rewrite it. But like 90% of cancel culture adjacent comics have basically made it their lives mission to turn their entire stand-up into crying about why people are not laughing at their jokes. And also, you're not always going to appeal to everybody, okay? That's the other thing. You're not. Not everybody wants to listen to EDM. Some people like rap, okay? It's like complaining about about the fact that, like, you're not reaching every crowd. Like 75-year-olds are not listening to hyperpop. What the is this about? This is bullshit. Well, you're not making music for them. I'm using another medium so that, you guys understand. Like, that's how comedy is too.
Is somehow dangerous. There's nothing less dangerous. It's boring.
Yeah. To say what people want you to say is not doing it. You're not transgressing.
Those particular people.
Yeah.
So pretty much for years, everyone thought that Marc Maron hated Joe Rogan and was just jealous of him. Because up until now, most of his critiques for Rogan were pretty surface level. Like he resented Rogan's athletic background, his overwhelming success, and had an ongoing podcast rivalry with him. Rogan was almost like the more popular version of Maron. And Maron actually confronted Joe on these very issues all the way back in 2011. Which at the time felt as if Mark were simply just jealous of Joe.
When I first saw you, I had this problem with guys who were, athletically oriented or had some sort of athletic nature about them before they came into comedy. And I remember that you and Kevin Flynn, he was like a soccer guy.
Yeah.
And you were a kickboxing champion. And there was part of me that was like, this is not for them. This is not their world. Why are they here? Why don't they stay in their competitive world?
Well, that's silly.
Well, of course it's silly. But you were sort of a cocky then, weren't you?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, if you're not around someone like that and all of a sudden you're around some guy and you hear this guy's a martial arts champion and now he's doing comedy,
yeah,
I would probably feel the same thing. Like, this is a guy invading our spot and ruining our vibe.
In this podcast, Mark also admitted that he felt that Joe doing Fear Factor disqualified him from being a comedy authority, implying that doing a show so out of sync with thoughtful or serious comedy should have knocked Rogan off any moral or artistic high ground.
Your television career, not news radio particularly, but Fear Factor was antithetical to, who you are now. And that I thought it was hard for me to accept that you were able to stand in a position of judgment of what comedy is or isn't, having done Fear Factor and the impact it had on the comedy business and television.
That's an interesting angle, and I gotta think that angle's got to be coming from some weird animosity that you might have had to me already before this. Because, first of all, I mean, how many sitcom writers are really comics? It's very few.
Well, they
and
all,
how many people
a lot of them started as comics. I'm just saying in comedy in general.
You can't say that that's taking away jobs because it's an economic issue, and if I wasn't hosting it, someone else would have hosted it.
So after that 2011 interview, a lot of fans of the podcast came to the conclusion that Mark was just jealous of Joe. But now, fast forward to 2025, and it almost seems like Mark's criticisms of Joe are becoming more valid by the day. And now, instead of having animosity or disdain for Joe, Mark labels it as reasonable criticism. So at the end of the day, whether you think Marc Maron is bitter or just finally saying what a lot of comics won't, his beef with Joe Rogan has taken a new level of depth. Like it started as a personal rivalry, but now it's evolved into this broader cultural clash.
No, I think like Marc Maron couldn't figure out exactly what it was that caused this kind of immediate reflexive distaste in what Joe Rogan was doing. And after 15 years of Joe Rogan's career unfolding in the ways that it did, he's been vindicated. You missed Tim Cook giving Trump a 1-to-1 Apple trophy. Yeah, sometimes people have an ick and then they work through it and they realize they were wrong. Other times people have an ick and they are vindicated for being right from the start. Okay, and in this circumstance, I think Marc Maron's gut led him. Marc Maron's gut led him to make the correct decision early on. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.